This is the blueprint that's helping music producers you've never heard of build a reputation and make a full-time living producing songs for artists. I created this because there are incredibly talented producers out there who can provide tons of value, but they feel awkward about pitching themselves and aren't sure how to find work consistently. Because whenever a producer does connect with a great client, it usually doesn't happen through a hard sales pitch or cringy marketing. It usually happens through an organic networking process. And that's exactly what this blueprint is. It's just a networking process, but with structure so that it's controllable. Without knowing it, most working music producers have probably used parts of this blueprint already, but they haven't been able to put it into a repeatable process for themselves. So that's what I'm going to help you do in this video. If you're new to the channel, I'm Daniel from Dark Label Music. I've been a behind-the-scenes business advisor to over 700 music producers, ranging from small studios to YouTubers you probably watch, to even Grammy-winning industry veterans. But the producer who's going to be our example today in order to demonstrate this blueprint is Alex Delzer, an upcoming pop producer. For context, he's an artist himself, and when he started this, he had also been producing for other local artists for a few years, but not 100% full-time yet. Now, Alex didn't have any expensive gear or tons of followers or any major credits yet, although I think he will in the future. But what he did have was the ability to deliver an incredible experience for his clients and make killer songs, demonstrated through his portfolio. And he had an Instagram profile that expressed who he is as a creative. And those two things are really all you need in order to use this blueprint. If I'm working with an early stage producer who doesn't have those yet, then I would focus on developing them as a producer first before we implement this blueprint. So just a heads up on that. First, we need a way to find new artists because we can't go out and network if we don't have anyone to network with. And this is how Alex does it. He pulls up his portfolio, he chooses an artist that he's worked with, and he goes to their Spotify profile. Then he uses features like Artist Radio and Fans Also Like to find similar artists to the ones he's already working with. And then he adds those to a separate playlist he created to build up a database of artists. Some of my producers get very particular with who they're looking for, but Alex is just finding artists that fit the genre he works in and have under 100,000 monthly listeners. That's it. The cool part here is that whenever one of Alex's clients has a new release, he adds it to his portfolio, which means now he can find even more similar artists, and it kind of creates this flywheel effect where the more you do it, the better this process works. And for networking, Alex has a routine that he starts at the beginning of every week. On day one, he uses the method I just showed you to find around 50 artists. He goes to their bio on Spotify so he can find a link to their Instagram, which he'll put into a document off to the side. Now, if they don't have an Instagram link on their Spotify page, then he just moves on to the next artist. So out of 50, it might actually be closer to 30 or 40 that he can get a hold of. And this way, he doesn't spend 10 minutes trying to hunt down their Instagram profile, I guess, unless he really wants to. But it's important that you don't spend too much time over researching each artist. I know it feels more authentic to do that, but the reality is that they might not even reply to you anyway. So it would be wasted time. You'll get to know more about the artists that actually want to talk to you later on. So on day two, he follows them and leaves a comment, which is optional. He's not going to comment like fire emojis or, hey, I sent you a DM. If he has something meaningful to say, then he'll comment. And if not, he just skips it. And day three is when the networking actually begins. And this brings us to step one of the blueprint. Throughout the next few days, Alex is going to send a DM and start connecting with artists. And he isn't pitching himself or saying anything about working together because that's not what we would do if we met someone in person. If you need a frame of reference, then imagine this. So let's say you just saw a really cool indie artist play a show at your local club. And after the show, everyone is cleared out and it's just you and the artist sitting at the bar having a drink. What would your opening line be? It probably wouldn't be, hey artist, great job. If you ever need a producer, let me know. Because they're just going to be like, yeah, okay, cool, thanks. And then the conversation is over. It ends. I looked at Alex's DMs and I noticed that most of the time his opening message is very casual. It's just something like, hey, how long have you been doing music? Your stuff is sick. Very simple. The opening messages are something that we're always testing with our producers, and yours might be different. You may not want to say that. Sometimes a more thoughtful message works better, even voice messages instead of texting. It really just depends, but this is what Alex found works for him, and he's just being himself. So out of the 233 artists he contacted in a 5-week period, 130 replied to him. This is above average, but 30 to 40% reply rate is typically what to aim for. If we're not getting that, then we probably need to fix some things. Okay, so the initial DM conversation is pretty short, and I'll explain why in a minute. Alex will have maybe 3 to 4 back and forths with the artist if they're open to talking to him. In that conversation, he's just trying to learn more about their creative process, their experience level, and where they're at in their cycle as an artist. Are they writing for an upcoming project? Did they just release something? Stuff like that. Not every artist is going to be talkative and want to have a conversation, and that's okay. In that case, he honors that and just moves on so that he can get to those who do want to talk to him faster. And the reason that this initial conversation in the DMs is short is because he wants to move the conversation out of the DMs into real life and actually speak with the artist because, as you know, it's much easier for us humans to connect that way. So he just shoots his shot. He doesn't really overthink it. He'll just say something like, hey, would love to hear more about X. You up for a call next week? That's it. And X could be anything they've talked about in the DM so far. A song the artist is writing or the tour they're about to go on. And not everybody is going to be up for that, but some will. And that brings us to step 2. And real quick, I just want to make you aware that you can download this blueprint if you want your own copy to review. I put a link in the description below. And if you have any questions as I go through this, then feel free to ask in the comments. Step 2 is the casual call. It's basically just a continuation of the conversation you were having in the DMs, but on a phone call, FaceTime, or Zoom. And out of the 130 artists that replied to Alex in the DMs, about 25 of them had a casual call. This call is typically around 15 to 20 minutes, and Alex is just getting to know the artist by asking questions and seeing if there are any opportunities for him to provide value. And I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. Usually, the artist is also asking questions about what you do. So this is where they learn more about you as a music producer as well. And just like the rest of this networking process, you need to be searching for what the next appropriate step could be. And there are typically 4 outcomes of a casual call. The first is probably the most rare, but occasionally the timing is right and the artist wants to go right into talking about hiring you because they happen to be looking for a producer right then. And in that case, you could jump down to step 4, which I'll show you later. But what's more likely to happen are one of these other 3 things. A mutual offer is just when Alex meets an artist that is way ahead of him and he doesn't see a place where he could add value as a hired producer, but he may want to collaborate with them on something for catalog or sync or something like that. Wait and see is what Alex does if he's just having a hard time catching a vibe from the artist, or if they're like about to go on tour for 6 months and the timing is off, he might just be like, hey, yeah, great connecting with you. Let's stay in touch on Instagram, because he's not really sure where to take it. But if Alex is talking to the artist and they click and he sees a clear path to offering value to them because they're working on something or they're stuck with something, then he offers what we call a proof session. And he'll say something like, hey, happy to offer some time and work on that or help you with that for 30 minutes, show you what I do. And I know that kind of sounds abrupt just reading it, but it actually flows just fine when you're locked into an engaged conversation with the artist and they're vibing with you. So a quick note on this. A lot of people get worried about this sounding like some kind of bait and switch, but Alex doesn't know yet if he even wants to work with this artist as a client, and neither does the artist. So it's still just networking at this point. Like when I lived in Nashville, we did co-writes all the time. There was no ulterior motives, just co-writing. But sometimes an artist we co-wrote with loved what we do and we connected and they asked us about working together and then they became a client. This blueprint essentially helps create those moments organically without being awkward or pushy. And Alex will make it clear in the casual call that he's a working producer. All right, so back to the blueprint. If the artist is up for doing a proof session, then Alex will book a date and time. He'll collect any files ahead of time if needed. Sometimes the artist has something they're working on and sometimes they don't. I'll talk about both options here in a minute. And finally, Alex will typically follow up the day before and 1 hour before. As so far, he's been pretty lucky with show up rate. I think that everyone that has booked one has shown up, but don't be alarmed if they don't with you. You didn't necessarily do anything wrong. Don't chase anyone down. Just move on to other artists so you can connect with the ones that will actually show up. Now we're on to step 3. After this, there is only one more step. The proof session usually takes place on Discord or Zoom or Lander sessions, really just any place where you could be on video together and share audio back and forth. Or if the artist is local, then you can just do this in person. Out of the 25 artists Alex had casual calls with during this 5-week period, 10 of them showed up and did a proof session, which is awesome. These can look different for different producers, but for Alex, his proof sessions typically start with just 15 minutes of chatting, 30 minutes of working on something, demonstrating his value, and maybe another 15 minutes of chatting at the end. Most of the time, Alex is either doing a test mix on something the artist has produced, or he's doing some additional production on a demo that the artist has started. It should just match whatever they talked about doing back on the casual call. Now, you'll see two other options here: co-write/pre-production and available catalog. If the artist doesn't self-produce, or if they're in the writing phase of their cycle, then you could just offer to do a co-write and start pre-production on something new. A lot of my producers do this. They'll almost treat the session as if it's the first session of a real project. If you're going to do this one, then just know that these typically last longer than 30 minutes, so I wouldn't say the 30-minute thing from earlier. I would just ask if they wanted to write some time. Available catalog just means that you're going to hang out and show them some of the tracks, beats, or song starters you have to see if there's anything that inspires them. This could also lead right into a co-write, but it doesn't always have to. The real point of this proof session isn't to complete anything or finish anything necessarily. It's just to build trust and bond with the artist, demonstrate your value, and see if there's creative chemistry. The outcome here is figuring out whether or not they want to even discuss working together more seriously. If you knock it out of the park, then a lot of times the artist will actually bring it up and start asking you about how you work with people, what you charge, etc. If they don't, then you could bring it up either there at the end of the proof session or later on if that's more comfortable for you. My producers will just ask them if they want to discuss either finishing the song they started in the proof session or start on something different. And again, by this point, you've spent some time with the artist, so you kind of know what they're focused on and have an idea of what they're trying to do right now. So let's say that they are open to explore working together more seriously. You have two options from here. If you have time at the end of the proof session, then you could go right into the project call, which I'll talk about in a minute, but more likely, you'll probably book this project call a few days later. And that leads us to step 4. The project call is the final step, and the purpose of it is to have a deeper conversation with the artist that you can determine the right things to offer. Out of the 10 proof sessions that Alex did in a 5-week period, about 7 of them decided to have a project call. And there are 5 parts to this call. The intro just lays out the agenda for the call so the artist knows what to expect. Then he asks questions about their big picture vision as an artist. And this is important because we need to make sure that the songs we choose and the process we're going to use aligns with that vision. For example, if the artist's goal is to get some big sync placements, but the songs that they're choosing for the project aren't syncable, then that's not doing them a good service. The project objective is where you get clear on the scope of this particular project itself. Then we see if there's any obstacles that the artist has experienced, maybe working with producers in the past, or if there are any mental roadblocks or lack of clarity around releasing and marketing the songs afterwards. Alex needs to know all this stuff because when he gets to the final step here, he has to present a solution that makes logical sense. It serves the goals of the project, it eliminates obstacles, and it's easy to say yes to. And we call this connecting the dots. I'll leave a link in the description to a video that explains that concept a little more. And here's the final result. All 7 project calls were a yes, and in 5 weeks, Alex brought in around $8,000 of work, some small projects and some bigger ones. We did raise his rates by about 25 to 30%, so that helped too. I will say that most of you probably aren't going to have a 100% yes rate. A little bit of that might have been some luck, but more realistically, 50 to 60% is what you want to aim for. Now, some of you might be looking at this and thinking like, man, Alex had to spend a ton of time to make this blueprint work. But he's already getting repeat clients and referrals and artists reaching out to him. So he's not going to have to do this process forever. It's just to get the business up and running so that the snowball effect can start to happen. And now he has a process that he can use in the future whenever he needs to fill his calendar during slow times.
This has been very helpful. I think the curriculum you have set up straightforward, very useful. I feel very, very equipped. Yeah. And it's just nice to have, like I said before, like a way to put my effort towards what I want to do. Like that's been huge.
And there's one final truth about this blueprint that you kind of have to know. Most producers who try this will burn out and give up before they ever get it to work. And the reason for that is because with every step I just showed you, there are a handful of things that could go wrong and need to be fixed or dialed in. This blueprint only works when all of the pieces work together. That's kind of the downside of it. Most producers will spend months trying to fix one part of the process, and it just goes really slow for them. So at my company, we have a really incredible tracking process that all of our producers use so that we're able to quickly identify their weaknesses and fix the parts that are broken so we can save them months or even years of headaches. So if you're going to do this process, just make sure you're tracking it. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it'll help you just see what parts you need to work on. And if you want any assistance with this process, then of course, feel free to reach out to us using the link below in the description. Or if you want to see how we use this same blueprint to help new music producers land their first clients, then watch this next video.